Good morning and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Matthew in real life and Blind Run on the internet, and today we're going to be talking about the things. Maybe need to take a sip of something to drink. Things and stuff surrounding crypto, specifically Bitcoin could double in price, specifically because of CFTC regulation. And that is coming from the chairman of the CFTC. So definitely, yes, clickbaity title, but backed up with, of course, like always, a clickbaity article for us to go over with you guys. We're also going to be taking a look at crypto loans and why they are booming in Latin America amid runaway bank rates and inflation. This, of course, could translate into basically other economies outside of Latin Americans, essentially Latin America, and I think it will. So this is a trend we definitely need to keep an eye on, because, you know, if we are looking at basically potential for cryptocurrency to be a hedge against inflation, well, this is the type of thing that will begin to happen. And we'll talk about it. It's very crazy, in my humble opinion. And then we have some Bitcoin miner news. Rhodium is going public through a reverse merger, one of the other easier ways to go public. And this is kind of the new way that some of the miners have been going public. So we're going to get it covered. We're also going to be talking about the RTX 4090 dropping in Europe at 1,999 euro, or as high as 2,600 euro. It's absolutely simply insane. And then we're going to be talking about the most interesting GPU to grace store shelves on October 12th. No, it is not Ada Lovelace from NVIDIA. It's actually Intel Arc, and that is because miners are going to basically have access to a 256-bit bus at just basically $289. Let me say that again. We are talking about a 256-bit bus at $289. That is brand new off the shelf, my friends. And that is way better than what you would be paying for an RTX 3070. So, yeah, this could be a mining powerhouse, and provided drivers are available, it's going to be pretty awesome. We also have some news from Conflux. We have some news from Caspa. We have some news from Octo Miner, and we have some news from T-Rex Miner. Let's get into all of that and more, including, of course, profitability, or the lack thereof, right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. All right, hopping right into the first topic, we're going to be taking a look at T-Rex Miner version 26.6. And this released essentially a couple hours ago, or yesterday actually. It released during our show. I remember this specifically because I saw it in chat. So they added Ethereum Classic and Alphium dual mining support, and then ProgPow Veil support for the upcoming Veil fork that will be, I guess, headed our way. So those are two kind of, obviously the dual mining support, not a big deal. They're way behind the 8-ball on that one. As far as supporting the Veil fork, at least that kind of gives us a cue to maybe take a look at what's going on with Veil and the fork. Maybe we'll get to that next week. And then some bug fixes for Ergo, the Auto Lycos 2, invalid extra nonce 2 size error when mining to NiceHash, which I guess, you know, here recently there was the merge, and I suppose that when miners were moving over to NiceHash and basically utilizing the Auto Lycos 2, algorithm. It was probably discovered sometime around then, which is why now, obviously, they're fixing it on T-Rex miners. So next we have essentially your opportunity to buy single one-off rigs from Octominer. Now, they've kind of split this up in an interesting way this time. So if you are in the US, it's going to be going through Miner Dude, which essentially is Octominer in the US as far as like all the parts are still going to be Octominer parts. You just get a black case and some different branding, and they will be handling all the US and Canada sales. And then Octominer will be handling all the non-US and non-Canada sales. So that's going to be the worldwide. This is going to be going from September 29th to October 4th. So you have till October 4th for this pricing. The X8s are going to be $949 US, and the X12s are going to be $1,099. And there will be free shipping. That's an all-in price. On the US side, you're looking at a 1 to 5 day average delivery time, and they will only be doing it for ready stock. And then same basically on the other side, except you have a 2-week average delivery time for the Octominers if you're not within the US and Canada. So you can check the description out down below for the link to it. So go ahead and check it out. And let's hop into cryptocurrency news. We got Caspa security patch, and here's the deal. This is really interesting. So most people weren't aware of what the actual security risks on Caspa were for this particular hard fork that happened. And obviously we went to version 12.7. We covered that before. I upgraded my node. Apparently less than 1% didn't update. So very good support as far as like miners getting out there, updating their nodes, users getting out there and updating their nodes. Very, very encouraging as far as that goes. And now the attack vector for pre-fork, you know, what they patched out has been revealed. And so Michael Sutton, obviously the developer for Caspa, or one of the developers, the head developer, main developer, M. Sutton on their Discord, has posted a Medium blog post covering what the security issue was. So I figure we could learn a little bit here. The attack vector described below resembles some similarity to the Bitcoin transaction malleability issue, but is actually a bit different and even reverse in some sense. Exploiting this vector would require intrinsic knowledge of our consensus and code base, but nonetheless, we decided to be a precaution and fix this issue as soon as possible despite the short-term hassle. Finding this issue and fixing it is another advantage of the code rewrite to Rust acting as an audit process, and we'll be talking about that here in a second too. All solutions below were already gradually applied through the above mentioned version. The final hard fork kicked in at September 28th, 2022, 9:20 UTC at a DAA score of 2,790,000. Is that right? 27,905,000. There we go. I can read numbers. It's fine. It's a little easier if you give me the commas though. Transactions include a per input sig op count field indicating the number of signature operations required to verify the spending of that unit. This field is used when calculating the overall mass of transactions, since signature verification is the most costly operation in the transaction verification process. Problem discovered by Ori Newman during the Rust rewrite at September 12th. Transaction hash as well as transaction ID do not include the sig op count field in the hashing process. This means that Merkle root of all transactions is unaffected by this field, and as a result, nor does the block hash. So attack vector number 1, a malicious node can easily manipulate sig op count to render the block mass too high without affecting the block hash, so that the nodes receiving this version of the block will mark this hash as invalid, while others receiving the original block will consider it valid and will mine over it. Even if the recipients of the modified block get the correct block data, eventually it will hash the same and the block will not be rechecked and will remain invalid, which will immediately result in a net split. And then there's attack vector 2. A malicious code manipulates SIG op count with a small change where it's still under valid mass. But different from the real numbers of signatures, the block passes body in isolation validation. But when considered by virtual resolver, a few things can happen. If it's candidate to be a chain block, if it is a candidate to be a chain block, it gets disqualified from chain since the validation logic discovers that it lied about the number of SIGs. Or 2, when merged by a blockchain, this transaction will not verify correctly. Transaction signature engine will expect the wrong number of signatures. This attack vector does not lead to a net split. However, it can lead to a chain split since nodes disqualify each other's blocks from being chain blocks. The permanent solution is as follows: hard fork such that SIG op count does get included in the transaction hashing process. And the problem, HF or hard fork, basically code, must be published at least a week in advance, leaking this vulnerability to anyone tracking us closely and actually increasing the threat of the net split in the intermediate period. Of course, the block is now, the hard fork is put through, and it appears to me that we are seeing essentially some success here, at least right now. I didn't see anything crazy, but in the hard fork version, they added a second, basically a second solution. They made the following changes immediately apply to the security patch. 1, ignore SIG op count when calculating mass, and 2, ignore wrong SIG op count when validating transactions against past UTXO. This means that as long as we get a majority to adapt to this version very fast, then only non-upgraded nodes are vulnerable to the net split attack. Now, like I said before, we had less than 1% upgrade, so I think that this is probably fine. However, this opens the door to possible data spamming by sending transactions with many transactions, since no SIG op count limit until the hard fork kicks in. This is not too bad since every signature still increases the number of bytes in the signature payload, a quantity which remains under mass limit. Note number 2 includes some components that can be used to net split non-upgraded nodes from upgraded ones. However, unlike the permanent solution, this will happen only as a result of an actual attack. So the strategy was to cover as much detail as possible during this sensitive period. And then I think this is the final added solution 3. In the pre-hard fork changes, we limited the number of actual SIG ops and limited the overall number of TX inputs per block with relatively large constants. Explanation: since number 2 still includes the possibility for an attacker to net split the minority which did not upgrade, we can temporarily add other constraints that will limit the block mass and thus limit possible spamming. These constraints are already implicitly respected by previous versions, so only a deliberate attacker could have used them. So basically avoiding any accidental attacker. So this is kind of where we are at. And let's go ahead and continue our news with Caspa currency. There is a Rust update from Mr. Michael Sutton, and he says, Caspa currency on Rust update. We are nearly done implementing consensus block validation. Once completed, we could start cranking up the transactions per second and BPS and get a first idea of how fast Caspa can go. Initial modest goal is 4 BPS, which is implying a 4x transactions per second from basically the Go version. So basically quadrupling the speed from essentially what it is now on Go to what it will be. And Caspa is already extremely fast. So getting even faster, in my humble opinion, that's going to be a pretty big deal. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions. Do transactions per second matter in the world of cryptocurrency? Do they matter more in, a proof of work setting? Let me know. And let's move on for the day. I'm personally excited for it. We have some news from Conflux. They have a hard fork upgrade coming, version 2.1 network hard fork upgrade announcement. Conflux network will be upgraded when Epoch reaches, this number, 1, 2, 3, 56,800,000, which is estimated to happen on October 18th, 2022 at +8 GMT. All nodes need to be upgraded before the time mentioned above. Most CIPs, which are Conflux improvement proposals, will be enabled when the block number reaches the, let's get this, 133,800,000, estimated to happen on October 25th, 2022, same time zone. And CIP 99 will be enabled when the proof of POS, proof of stake block number reaches 330,000, estimated to happen on October 25th, 2022. The full nodes programs download link is at their GitHub, and links are down in the description, so you can go find it for yourself if you need to upgrade your node. This hard fork will activate 5 different Conflux improvement proposals, including CIP 94, 97, 98, 99, and 105. Brief overview of these basically improvement proposals. CIP 94 is a CIP that proposes to use on-chain DAO voting to decide and update reward parameters without a hard fork. CIP 97 proposes to remove account staking lists. And CIP 98 fixes a bug in the block hash opcode in eSpace. CIP 99 allows more not voting terms before we force retire a node, and make the unlock period of a retiring node shorter to allow the node to rejoin the POS of voting faster. And then CIP 105 is proof of staking, POS staking based minimal DAO vote count. So if you guys want to check out more about this on more details, you can definitely check it out down in the description below. To the ordinary users, this upgrade will not affect the normal use of Conflux network. However, they advise to avoid using the network due to instability and operational delay during the upgrade. There is a possibility that your assets on Conflux network will be lost. So according to CIP 94, after that hard fork, users can use on-chain DAO voting to decide and update reward parameters without a hard fork. So essentially being able to change the monetary policy without a hard fork is my understanding there. And I am finding that a lot of projects seem to have their monetary policy not figured out from the get-go, which is, the more and more I become closer to becoming a Bitcoin maximalist, it's like, let's just figure out the monetary policy at the beginning, because, you cause so much strain on these networks and arguments and debates that it's absolutely insane. It's absolutely simply insane. When, as opposed to that, you just have Bitcoin that doesn't change and has had the same monetary policy since inception and will have it through its lifespan more than likely, right? Let's talk about GPU news. I am excited for this one in particular. We got the Intel Arc A7 GPUs, and they're cheap, bro. The A770 from $329 to $349 and the A750 at $289. Now, obviously, these aren't made to basically compete with the latest 40 series or 7000 series from NVIDIA and AMD respectively. However, where it gets extremely interesting is specifically within the VRAM options that we are getting. The A770 will have an 8GB and a 16GB model, so you're not really going to have to worry about DAG increases from the GPU mining perspective. And the A750, I believe, will also have 8GB of RAM, right? So lots of memory right off the bat. You're getting some faster speed on the A770. So technically your total memory bandwidth will be 560 gigabytes per second. However, if we look at, the Intel A750, we're looking at 512 gigabytes per second. Now, why is this important? Well, if you look at this pricing wise for basically memory specific algorithms, it's basically on par with the RTX 3070. which is still at a used price here, pretty low. In fact, you're getting about 100 gigabytes per second faster because the memory speed on the GDDR6 is the older memory speed on the 3070. So you can see here, 256-bit bus, 448 gigabytes per second. So at the top end here on the Intel, we're getting 560 gigabytes per second. On the mid tier, or the lower tier, the A750, 512 gigabytes per second. Still faster memory than you saw on the RTX 3070. And with the RTX 4070 gimping its bus down to 192-bit and basically gimping its memory bandwidth total, you know, from the perspective of mining things like ETH hash-based coins, Ergo, and so on, plus the potential benefits that you get off of, like, of course, still Flux and Raven coin with memory performance improvements, this is looking very enticing. What are we looking at the graphics clock? Because then, of course, we talk about core intensive. You're still, you know, looking at 2.1 gigahertz, essentially 2 gigahertz, basically 2000 megahertz on the actual graphics core clock. And that can definitely put you in a spot of being, you know, basically competitive pretty easily with the 3070. Because if we go over to the 3070, the boost clock is like 1725 megahertz. Of course, not all cores are the same. Let me make that very clear, right? But if we just look at it on the face value, it's looking better than the 3070 for quite a bit less. And the 750 is looking better from a mining perspective. Now, things that are going to be difficult: mining software support, right? Drivers for Linux and Windows. And then a combination of the two to basically be able to utilize these things off the bat. That being said, you know, it hasn't been impossible, depending on like how you configure them, to mine on Intel CPUs. So I don't think it'll take too long for this to basically, and I mean Intel, the actual graphics portion of the Intel CPUs, to be clear. So I don't think it'll take long for this to get unlocked. And once, you know, you got like a good miner like LOL miner or somebody along those lines to come out with a well-supported miner release, this thing's looking basically like, you know, at this price point, I mean, unless we just get like this flood of used GPUs on the market, which is really not happening with the 3070s right now, I mean, this is going to be a pretty good deal, I think. Should be interesting to say the least. And it doesn't look like it's that bad on power either, right? So total board power, 225 watts, which means you could tune that down probably even further. In comparison to a 3070, let's get that number here real quick before we go. I think the 3070 is a little less, last I checked. Yeah, 220 watts. So 5 more watts on the total board power, or the TDP. So, really, right on par. It's basically, these look like faster versions of the RTX 3070, right? From a mining perspective, they look faster. As far as on paper, they're faster than the 3070 for mining. Will that, you know, play out at the end of the day? Well, we'll find out on October 12th. I have to get my stuff spun up. We got to get some graphics cards and motherboards and stuff sold. If you guys are interested in buying some old motherboards from me that I mined on and some stuff like that, let me know. I'm going to be getting some sort of shop set up here shortly, because obviously on October 12th, I have to have like a shit ton of money. I mean, to test at this point, right? Like if we want to do 40 series and we want to test Intel Arc, I'm going to have to liquidate some stuff. So I'm going to get that, like a shop here set up soon, because, you know, we're going to have easily, like on the 12th, I'm going to have a couple grand just sitting there waiting to go buy parts for review. So if you guys want to help me out with that, stay tuned over on sonofatech.locals. I'm also going to be listing I got CPUs out the wazoo, motherboards out the wazoo. We'll be selling some high-end motherboards and CPUs. So I'll be getting those up as well. It is all older generation stuff, you know, 5000 series on the AMD, 11,000 series on the Intel. But you know, if you guys can help me out, hopefully we can get close after selling everything to be able to review all these parts, because, you know, I don't think at this point we're going to look. GPU companies don't send miners anything for review. Unfortunately, it's just not the way it goes, right? So we also have the RTX 4090, like I said, releasing on the 12th, but at the same time, apparently cards are listed in Finland. So these cards have listed, and they've listed for like basically $19.99 at the base, at the cheapest, with basically the prices going all the way up to $25.29. And that is the Asus ROG Strix version, which is simply insane. If you are in Finland or around the area, I wouldn't, you know, pay these prices. I would wait to see, you know, what the prices are going to come out to on the official launch. I'd like to also hear your thoughts and opinions in the chat. I mean, obviously, we've seen essentially the euro and the pound fall in comparison to the US dollar. So my assumption is that's part of what's going on here. We will probably see stateside somewhere between $14.99 USD to $19.99 USD is what my assumptions are here based on this pricing. Which is extremely expensive. And I just don't know, you know, as we look at this more and more, I don't think gamers are going to, I think gamers are going to move or gravitate towards the 30 series. I would, you know, in my personal systems, lean towards the 30 series. Obviously, I've been saying that I'm going to lean towards the 30 series for mining as well, more than likely, because it doesn't look like the 40 series is going to be a good idea, especially considering the power supply upgrades that you got to do for them. But I feel like NVIDIA is putting themselves in an extremely poor position here. But I don't know that there's a way around it, right? They're basically releasing something that's no good at mining, right? Which I guess it wouldn't really matter, but in basically a point with record high inflation where frankly, like, I'm already seeing luxury type items and stuff stop selling, right? I was talking to my wife about this yesterday. Cause like, what we saw with the Ryzen 7000 series, for example, was basically, in my humble opinion, one of the best CPU releases in quite some time, as far as like performance per core compared to the 5000 series is just astronomically better. We're talking about basically from a performance perspective, server grade power at the top end with the 7950X in a desktop setting, and it performs across the board. The single thread's great, the multi-thread's great. We could complain about power and temperatures a little bit, but in any other time, like if this would have launched, if they would have launched the 7000 series in 2021 or 2020, or pre-lockdowns, they would have been sold out and scalped to hell. The fact that like not that many, like I've seen like one online retailer like have like the actual count for how many they sold, and it said they only sold like 40 total 7000 series CPUs. Luxury items, which PC gaming parts fall into, if there's no market for mining on them, frankly, are not going to sell. And I don't think the 4090 is going to sell very well. But, you know, maybe I'm wrong. You guys let me know, especially with skyrocketing like power costs. It's like you're going to buy this and then also not be able to afford to run it essentially at some point in a lot of geographical locations. It seems like very poor timing for this release. All right, so Bitcoin miner Rhodium going public through reverse merger with Silver Sun Technologies. Now, we've talked about this strategy before. Like, Bitcoin miners are struggling to raise capital, and it's really, really hard to go public, especially as a cryptocurrency mining company. And a way around that is to do it with a merger or a reverse merger like this, right? So Rhodium in January postponed what were then plans for an IPO at as much as $1.7 billion valuation. Rhodium Enterprises has agreed to merge with publicly traded tech firm Silversun Technologies, which will bring the mining company to the U.S. public markets. It's no secret that miners have been struggling in the recent markets thanks to the big plunge in Bitcoin prices. The bear market has also nearly closed the door on capital markets, right? Like we said, this is a capital strategy. Last week, Compute North, one of the largest mining hosting firms, filed for bankruptcy. Rhodium in January announced plans for an initial public offering in the $1.5 to $1.7 billion valuation range, but postpones those intentions just 1 week later. Under the terms of the merger agreement, Silversun shareholders will receive a cash dividend of no less than $1.50 a share, roughly $8.5 million in total, and 1 share of stock in a newly created subsidiary housing Silversun's legacy businesses, according to a company press release. The deal is scheduled to be completed by the end of the year, with investment bank B. Riley acting as a financial advisor to Rhodium, the press added. Silversun shares, there we go, Sally sells seashells down by the seashore, were up 19.4% in Thursday afternoon trading. And I mean, that does make sense. You're getting yourself to a capital, I think obviously for Silversun, not so much, but for Rhodium here, which is the important part, they're getting themselves in a good capital position, right? Which is what's needed right now in a bear market. Capital is tight. There's not a lot of it going around. You got to play these games. I get it. You're going to play this reverse merger game to go ahead and get some capital to survive the bear market in hopes that eventually, obviously for Silversun here, what happens in the event that we get back into the next bull run, then Silversun basically cut a killer deal for themselves for 2025, right? That's where we're at. And so these are the games that are being played, and I expect more of this to be happening, and we'll probably see a lot more miners end up in this position, especially after we looked at yesterday the fact that pretty much there's only one miner in existence that is actually profitable since their inception. Every other miner is in the red by a lot, right? All the way up to like basically over $1 billion, right? In the red. So, these companies are going to have to basically get acquired, merge, that sort of thing. And this is just kind of par for the course for the bear market right now. Basically, crypto miners tried to expand too fast basically tried to expand too fast on credit. Which, like on this channel, like we've always talked about, I've always been against the credit, even at the small level, because I think that it's better off, at least if you're in a position where things go south. Hopefully you own all your equipment and you can sell it off, even if it does mean selling it off at a price that is not, advantageous or close to what it previously was. All right, so crypto loans are booming in Latin America amid runaway bank rates and inflation. Man, boys, we talk about it a lot. And then we question ourselves. I think there is a certain point where maybe we do say with cryptocurrency, just trust the process. And what's the process? The process is eventually the removal of, banks and nation states controlling your finances and essentially being a hedge against inflation like it was originally intended. Maybe that does happen, and news articles like this make me think it's headed in that direction and it's inevitable. But of course, then we see like Bitcoin and prices like kind of collapsing and following along with the regular market, and I start to question myself. But this, I think it affects the US last. I think right now, this is kind of the idea. I think everything consolidates into the US dollar first. And then I think after that, and every other economy collapses, right? I don't know when this is going to happen. And this is tinfoil hat, and I'm just kind of playing around with ideas, okay? But you see a consolidation of literally everything into the US dollar, and everything else around it collapses. And then eventually you see a consolidation of everything into Bitcoin and the US dollar crashes. That's a possibility here. Like I've talked about before, we are at the great fork between central bank digital currencies and financial freedom and individual sovereignty. This is the path that we are at, or this is the fork in the road on the path that we're on. And we can choose wisely to a certain extent, but I think that the hammers are going to come down hard. The regulation's going to come down hard because you can't give it up, right? Like these countries, the banks, they aren't going to want to give this up. They don't want to give the control up, right? Crypto loans are booming though, and that is because of basically bank rates and inflation. The traditional banking system and economic instability are making it difficult for Latin Americans to get credit, but crypto lending is thriving across the region. It is not easy for Latin Americans to borrow money from traditional banks at a time of extremely high interest rates and relentless inflation, so some in the region have turned to crypto to gain access to needed credit. Back in 2020, when the lockdowns induced inflation hit, Latin American central banks were among the first to hike interest rates, with further increases in 2021 and 2022. Back in 2020, so as a result, traditional banks' lending rates grew exponentially, acting as a trigger to the growth of crypto platforms, which offer up to 50% lower rates and zero maintenance fees. Ledn, a Canada-based lending platform with more than 125,000 users, started operating in Latin America in 2019. The region now accounts for 50% of the loans granted by the company, and the co-founder and chief strategy officer Mauricio Di Bartolomeo told CoinDesk. And here's the deal. That's crazy. Look at that kind of adoption in crypto. 50% of the loans in the region are cryptocurrency-based loans. That is absolutely insane and simply insane. But to take this further, to give you guys an idea of how crazy that is this doesn't stop there, right? Because here's what gets nuts. Here's what's nutty, okay? The lending rate right now is an annual interest rate of 7.9%. It's getting to the point to where even in the US, it would be stupid to take out a loan with a bank compared to taking out a loan with a crypto platform like that, just based off the interest rates. So Ledn, or Lend, basically spelled like hodl, offers credits in US dollars and USD coin, stablecoin, with an annual interest rate of 7.9%. When receiving USD or USDC loans, the collateral in Bitcoin must double the loan. The company provided $500 million in loans in Latin America, with an average amount of Bitcoin-backed loan of $9,206, he said. In July, Buenbit, a Latin American crypto exchange, started offering crypto credits in Argentina. And hold on, let me get rid of this real quick. I'm sorry, I usually cut this down and get rid of them, and I did not this time. Where did that go? Hey, asshole, stop messaging me. Quit. All right, there we go. All right, sorry about that. I'll do better and make sure those are closed down next time. So, in July, the Latin American crypto exchange started offering crypto credits in Argentina via NuArs, a stablecoin pegged to the Argentine peso that operates on Binance's blockchain and must be collateralized in the US dollar pegged stablecoin DAI. Since the launch of that lending feature, the amount borrowed for NuArs grew by 70%, Manuel Calderon, Buenbit's financial manager, told CoinDesk. He said the borrowing limit expanded from 1 million Rs, equivalent to $3,703, to 5 million Rs in September, adjusting to user demand. Depending on the amount borrowed, the collateral required can go up to 90%, he said. The annual interest rate is about 69.5%, though it can change on a daily basis as the markets fluctuated, he added. With Argentina's traditional banks, loan rates can exceed 200% annually. Dear Lord. according to data from major institutions surveyed by CoinDesk. This feature is designed for those who do not want to sell US dollars but need to get a hold of pesos for an expense, either short-term or long-term. This way you can keep the dollars and use them as collateral to take out the loan, which obviously in the case of Argentina meant it was a big deal, right? You want to hold that US dollar. We already talked about the importance of stable coins, basically helping prevent, regular people in other countries that don't have access to the US dollar without being extremely rich, being able to access the US dollar to basically hedge against the inflation of their own currency. And this is something that the UN has come out against, right? The UN wants to block this because, if we're being completely honest, part of the way the game works is basically trying to destroy smaller countries' economics or economies, right? This is something that we've seen a ton of times from, basically the UN, etc. So I don't know how long stablecoins will stay in existence without heavy regulation. It's clear that it's gone from just wanting individual countries wanting to basically regulate it to now essentially a kind of a globalized ruling entity trying to essentially go in and regulate it. In August, Noom Finance, which developed a stablecoin pegged to the Peruvian sol called Nupin, started offering loans in new Rs and new Pen on its own platform in Argentina and Peru. According to Santiago Mignon, Noom Finance's CEO, more than $250,000 were lent over the last month. Latin America is a region that has far fewer credit facilities than countries with similar incomes, such as Eastern Europe or South Africa, he said. There's a great incentive for crypto products that bring new modalities to help expand credit in several ways. Noom Finance's credits can be 100% collateralized with Bitcoin, Ether, or DAI, among other crypto, while the interest rates varies according to the referential rates of each country. In Argentina, the rate of new Rs is 59%, while new Pens rises up to 6%. I think it's supposed to say 5.9%, maybe. 59% wouldn't make, I don't know. So why would your rate rise to 6% from 59%? Anyways, in August, Mexico's central bank announced a monthly rate hike for the 10th consecutive month, adding 75 basis points and taking interest rates to an all-time high of 8.5%. Brazil, one of the first countries to tighten its monetary policy in 2020, accounts for the highest second interest rate in the world with 13.75%. But the first place by far goes to Argentina, whose central bank announced in September a 550 BPS raise, hitting a 75% reference interest rate. Private banks are even more risk adverse with granting a loan. In Brazil, the largest private bank, Atua, offers personal loans with an annual interest rate that can go up to 172.85% according to its website. In Argentina, the annual interest rate offered by the largest private player, Banco Santander, can reach 230%. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I can't even bleep that out. These rates make it impossible for citizens to repay loans as inflation continues to rise, Darian Yane, an Argentine economist specializing in crypto, told CoinDesk. Latin America has some of the highest inflation in the world, with an average of approximately 11% year to year. These numbers have even affected the steadiest countries, such as Chile and Peru, whose citizens have recently started adopting crypto as a hedge against inflation. Furthermore, in Latin America, financial inclusion is still low. Up to 50% of its workforce works in informal conditions and therefore lacks a credit score necessary to apply for a loan. For some living outside the banking system whose income is in local currency, who can't access credit, can't access a bank account, a credit card, anything, that's when crypto becomes a solution, Yane added. So the age-old question that we always get asked here, and that I'm always debating, is crypto a hedge against inflation? And I think, as I see more of the news globally, my answer starts to become closer and closer to yes. Now, when does that apply to like the United States? That applies to the United States probably sooner than later as they continue to raise the interest rates, right? The federal interest rates. And once they get to a position where, it's like better to not even care about your credit score anymore, which I think would be beneficial to the individuals too, in my humble opinion. Once it's to the point to where it's like, I don't care about my credit score. I don't need a credit score anymore to get a loan on crypto. And the credit score portion to get a loan is going to be so astronomically more expensive that it doesn't even make sense. Then you start to break down the barrier for credit scores, which at that point I think is positive. And maybe we do see some sort of, frankly, it doesn't matter which way we go, whether it's like CBDC or Bitcoin, we are seeing a financial revolution happen right now. Now, whether or not the individual is empowered or the state is empowered more after this revolution is going to be the question. And then from what I'm seeing here, when we see, crypto being utilized to give relief to individuals within different geographical locations, depending on what their current inflation rates and all that are, I see only positive news coming out of this. And stateside, what happens stateside really with Bitcoin is it influences the overall price of Bitcoin, right? There seems to be still some relation between, the strength of the reserve currency, the world's only reserve currency right now, the US dollar, and the way the federal government of the US approaches, regulates, and basically participates within cryptocurrency. And this is bringing up the big headline for today, which is Bitcoin could double in price. Why is the question? Well, if we see a CFTC regulation as opposed to an SEC regulation, key terms and differences here being Bitcoin as a commodity as opposed to a security. If we see that come down and see the CFTC gets regulation over Bitcoin, it could blow Bitcoin up. Now, is it enough for another bull run or something along those lines? I'm still cautiously optimistic. I still think like the number one thing that influences Bitcoin is the halving cycle. And so I don't expect any sort of crazy pump in Bitcoin or a recovery of the market to even begin until 2024, the end of 2024. However, I could always be wrong. And this is the CFTC chairman, Benham, basically making this statement. The CFTC chairman, Rostin Benham, argued on Wednesday that non-bank institutions, including crypto exchanges, thrive in conditions of regulatory certainty. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC for short, Chairman Rostin Benham said Wednesday that the CFTC-led regulation could have significant benefits for the crypto industry, including a potential boost to the price of Bitcoin. Quote, growth might occur if we have well-regulated space, end quote, Benham told attendees during a fireside chat at the New York School of Law, or New York University School of Law, excuse me. Bitcoin might double in price if there's a CFTC-regulated market. Now, here's what I will say. I do think a CFTC regulated market is much more beneficial than an SEC regulated market. And from the perspective that the markets would have on Bitcoin, I think it could drive the price up purely because it wouldn't fall under the SEC. That's my humble opinion. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, as well as the live chat. Is it a lesser of two evil things from my perspective? Yes. Yes, definitely. But I'm going to root for Bitcoin being regulated by the CFTC over the SEC. Benham has consistently argued for the need to provide market participants with regulatory clarity, something that many in the crypto industry have argued is lacking. For years, the CFTC and the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission have squabbled over the role of top regulator for crypto industry, both reluctant to issue much in the way of formal guidance for crypto companies, choosing instead to set regulatory precedent through enforcement actions, which I highly disagree with. Like, the way, especially the SEC has been handling this lately, we could deem, anything you want as a security, but deeming it a security post lawsuit is fucking bullshit. I don't know. We bleeped out the wrong one, but it is complete BS. It's like, okay, at this point, like, we're going to go ahead and file this lawsuit, and mid lawsuit, we're going to go ahead and deem these 15 things securities so that we can actually win the lawsuit. And it's like, no, that's morally bankrupt, in my humble opinion. Innocent until proven guilty, my friends, is what it's supposed to be. And you can't prove someone guilty by changing the laws midway through the hearing. Like, it's just ridiculous. A clear regulatory framework, Benham argued, could pave the way for institutional investors to enter the market. These incumbent institutions in the crypto space see a massive opportunity for institutional inflows that will only occur if there's a regulatory structure around those markets, Benham said. Non-bank institutions thrive on regulation. They thrive on regulatory certainty. They thrive on a level playing field, he added. And they may say otherwise. They may bicker about the type of regulation, but what they love most is regulation because they are the smartest, the fastest, and the most well-resourced. With those attributes, they can beat everyone else in the market. So, settling the debate through legislation. A bipartisan bill introduced by the leaders of the Senate Agricultural Committee, which oversees the CFTC, would crown the CFTC the primary regulator for the crypto industry, expanding the agency's authority to oversee crypto spot markets and requiring crypto trading firms to register with the CFTC. Though it stopped short of explicitly defining where one's agency's purview ended and the others began. Benham said on Thursday that he supports the bill, which includes a provision that would allow the cash-strapped agency to levy fees on regulated entities, something Benham argued would be critical as the CFTC is to tackle the challenge of regulating crypto. Quote, "We are currently appropriated money by Congress, and it has put us in a position where we feel like we're constantly on edge about how much money we will be appropriated," Benham said. "We are still feeling the wounds and scars from about 5 or 6 years of flat funding." So for the CFTC, to be clear, they want basically regulatory oversight because they want more funding. Now, I think the SEC does have a lot more funding than the CFTC, and as far as the amount of people that work for each individual organization, the CFTC has a lot less people. This is part of the reason why, from my perspective, it would be better to be under the CFTC, is because they have less funding, they have less people. I would hope that it would continue that way too, a little bit inside. That's what I want out of it, right? We are currently, so the CFTC's battle with the dual issues of jurisdiction over crypto markets and its comparatively small operating budget has impacted its ability to effectively deal with crypto crime, Benham told the audience on Thursday. "We're only touching the tip of the iceberg," Benham said. The 60 or so cases that the CFTC has brought, we've only had to solely rely on whistleblowers, on customer complaints, and on tips coming to us. We don't have the traditional surveillance tools. Hell yeah. The market oversight tools, don't get them. To monitor trading platforms, to oversee broker-dealers, or simply situated intermediaries. Those are the types of things that we fall a little bit short on, not because of lack of effort, but because of lack of jurisdiction, he added. And on the flip side here, the SEC is like, "Oh, it's a security, and also it's under our jurisdiction." Meanwhile, the CFTC is like, "Put it under our jurisdiction. We don't have enough money to do anything." And I'm like, let's go with CFTC, bro. All right, let's go ahead and get into mining profitability right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. And welcome back. So first things first, let's get into mining profitability for the day, which is no profit at 10 cents a kilowatt hour on an RTX 3090. You got Firo losing the least amount of money at 21 cents a day lost. Cero in second, losing 28 cents a day. I guess supposedly, really, if you mined a nice hash with Flux, it would be in second at losing 23 cents a day. And then third would be Ravencoin, losing 34 cents a day after power. And it doesn't get any better if we go down to Ethereum Classic, which is losing 42 cents a day after power. And you know, it is what it is. We're just going to have to sit back and wait for the market to shake out. It's really interesting that we haven't seen more GPUs hit the market. I've seen some people try to sell to me. They're still asking way too much for them by and large. It seems to me, you know, what's wild, right, is frankly, we're about to see a release for a GPU that will cost under $300 brand new, that will be competitive with the 3070, provided, you know, mining software supports it, but on paper, you know, basically competitive with the 3070. And people are still trying to sell the 3070 for $350 to $400. It's like, everybody's completely unrealistic about what they're trying to get for the prices. Now, I understand people were paying way too much for 3070s. $1,000, $1,100 at the top of the market. But that's why you were supposed to buy last bear market, right? And it's hard to go through all that. I should have sold my equipment, I guess, near the end. I just hold on to my equipment, at least the 5700s. But even still, you know, if I compare, I was paying $300 to $350 per 5700. And if I compare that to like what they're selling for used now, they've definitely paid themselves off multiple times now at this point, right? And I could still get maybe 200 for them, 150 to probably just wipe them all out, throw them all up for like $150 a pop and call it a day. And still, you know, that's only like $200 loss. Whereas, you know, I do feel for the 3070 guys, because if you look at a 3070 that you paid $1,100 for at the top of the market, and you're trying to sell it, and you need to sell it for basically at this point $300, that's a huge cut, right? Plus, if you bought it at that time, you also probably didn't pay it off, right? So really, this entire cycle is so dependent on staying as non-greedy as possible and basically purchasing equipment when it's cheap, running it while it's not, and then trying to sell it. I don't know how you try to sell it. I don't think I'll ever play that game. I think I'll just play the game where I turn it off. And then on the next bull run, sell whatever isn't working, right? So like this past bull run, I sold a lot of 1063 gigs and RX 580s and 480s. So this next bull run, I'll probably sell 5700s, right? Probably be the case of what I do, but I'm not going to sell them right now. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. Let's take a look at the hash rates across the networks, right? Bitcoin is up 5%. The difficulty did drop a little bit, but it'll probably go back up because the hash rate is back up, 255 exahash a second. And all of the ETH coins, we'll start with Ethereum Classic, is up 0.27% over the past 7 days and is at 170 terahash a second still pretty much. Guess it's going to sit there for a while. Ethereum Proof of Work up 97% over the past 7 days, still sitting around 56 terahash a second as it was yesterday. And Ethereum Fair still sitting around 8 to 9 terahash a second, up 221% over the past 7 days. Now, if we take a look at the rest of this, let's go through it. Flux, right? 8 mega solutions a second. Is that right? Yes, sir. 8.43 mega solutions a second, down about 9.5% over the past 7 days. The big ones, of course, Ergo. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ergo. It's down 15.46% over the past 7 days. It's currently sitting at 22 terahash a second. We already covered yesterday. I am going to be doing a video for GetBlock on how to vote for you guys here. I'm going to try to get that out today, so stay tuned on the channel for that because votes are going through today. So just going to do a real quick guide on how to vote if you are mining on GetBlock. So definitely stay tuned there for that one. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ravencoin. It's fairly simple, by the way, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Okie doke. Ravencoin is at 18 terahash a second. It's actually fallen down from about 20 terahash a second earlier in the week, right? So interesting that we are seeing some hash rate fall off of Ravencoin. I think this is just a sign of GPU miner. We didn't see this hash rate move anywhere else necessarily. According to What to Mine, it's, you know, in 3rd place in profitability. So really probably what we're seeing here is miners turning off, would be my assumption. You guys let me know what you think. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Caspa. Rocking the Caspa, down 32% over the past 7 days. And the hash rate has actually come down fairly significantly from, 200 terahash a second to 175 terahash a second. Is that part of the hard fork? Definitely possible. So we'll have to sit back, relax, and see what happens there. The network hash rate, though, 247 terahash a second. And then taking a look at Radiant, 31.85 terahash a second. Excuse my yawn. And that is down over the past 7 days because it did have that initial spike right when we kind of talked about it and started mining it, and it's fallen back down. It is down basically 1.7% over the past 7 days. There you go. Let's go ahead and look at ASIC miner profitability. Still sitting in first place. The Antminer L7 at 1638 a day. Basically not really though, because that's, I guess I suppose it'd probably be somewhere close to that, 15, 16 bucks a day. I don't trust mining rig rentals calculations really for the most part. iPolo V1 in second place, doing 1058 a day on Ethereum Fair, which is double what it does on any other ET hash, it looks like. Pretty wild stuff there. A Jazz Miner X4 coming in right after that, 963 a day. Ethereum Fair has kind of been that profitable thing here for a second, for a hot minute. Gold Shell KD6 at 564 a day after power. iPolo V1 Classic, it's doing the ETC thing, I guess, at 304 a day. I'm not sure if that is. Oh, just because it can only do Ethereum Classic. It can't do Ethereum. It can't do Ethereum Fair. That's right. Gold Shell KD5 at 278 a day. And the Antminer S19 Pro at $1.26 a day, basically. Under $2 a day on the S19 Pro. Not looking good. Let's take a look at my favorite proof of work coins here. Kind of spin them out. Past 24 hours, Flux is up 2%, coming in first place. Ethereum Classic not far behind, almost 2% at 1.484% up. and then Beam at up by 65%. The biggest loser in the past 24 hours is Neoxa at 8.27%, Caspa at 6%, and Ergo at 1.74% in third place. Over the past 7 days, Ethereum proof of work is up 85%, taking first place. Ethereum Classic is up 0.48%, and Beam is up 0.21%. The biggest losers over the past 7 days in these proof of work coins is Ethereum Fair, which is down 34%, Caspa, which is down 31%, and Neoxa, which is in third place, which is down 22%. Let's get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated, first to be answered because they're the easiest to read. Tagging at Son of a Tech will highlight the message orange, making it easier for me to read. And if you do not do that, I cannot answer your question because it'll just be too hard to find them all. Usually, I want to thank everybody that stopped in today for this fine Friday, and I hope you guys are all doing good. Obviously, the markets are a little rough today. It's been that way, and it is what it is. Chadwick says, Ask Son of a Tech, the supply of 5,700 on eBay is over 1,200 units now. Prices are coming down and fast. Yeah, the 5,700s are down. I think the 5,700s people are trying to sell off. I think the 3070s, it doesn't seem like they are as much. Michael says, That's Son of a Tech, you don't think the 4000 series will have a more sophisticated mining lock? If they do a mining lock at all, I didn't actually look and see if they are. We could look. RTX. The 4090 won't. So that's a moot point. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I suppose. All right. Let's see. 3070 Ti has just crossed 7 mega hash per watt. On what? Caspa or Radiant? RX says, That's Son of a Tech. What do you think about ETH? Oh, they had a lot of issues. I don't know. And it crashed. Your overclock's too high. Chadwick says, That's Son of a Tech. Navi is now Polaris. I'm going to be looking for RDNA 2 stuff because with all the new coins coming out here are core intensive. Fair enough. Ryan Casper says, That's Son of a Tech. How do you feel about Beam? I have no real strong feelings about Beam. I probably need to get to work on researching Beam some more. They kind of had this weird resurgence that we had talked about, but it's kind of like, I don't know, some of these old coins, like when they surge back up, I'm like, why though? And then I go try to find out why, and I can't find why. And I feel like Beam is like that right now. It's like, why? And I can't really figure out why. Why be completely dormant, basically, in a bull run and then come out of nowhere, right? Mike Wright says, That's Son of a Tech. You keep saying Caspa can do a lot of transactions per second, but did you know Toncoin can do millions of transactions? Bitcoin and ETH are at 5 to 15. Toncoin can do millions because it is proof of stake. We're talking about completely different technologies. Proof of work transaction per second being fast is relevant. Extremely relevant. Proof of stake is like, okay, well, everybody's doing that. Right? Solana's pretty fast. Cardano's fast. But they give up security. Major Raw Dog, fun name. At Son of a Tech, what is your favorite crypto trading platform to use? I don't have a favorite. I use whatever I need to use that has the best price on the crypto I'm trying to trade with the least amount of fees. Shia says, at Son of a Tech, is that Argentinian coin mineable? No, I think it's just a token. But I have to go double check, I guess. Says, at Son of a Tech, what would you mine in HODL if you had free power right now? Caspa. Trom says, at Son of a Tech, miners seem to avoid mining algorithms such as 1445. Why do you think it is? You mean for Equihash? I mean, it really just depends on like what, I mean, nothing's profitable, but what loses the most amount, right? I mean, like, as far as like, it's the projects. But also, like, some of these things are just old. Like, why the heck do I care about, like, most of the Equihash 1445 projects? I don't, because they've been dead projects since 2017. Talon says, at Son of a Tech, I'm mining Radiant on Hive OS, and it seems like I run a while, then goes to sleep, then runs. Is that normal? No, I'm mining pretty straight and consistent. RX says, at Son of a Tech, do you think Raptorium will ever get back to its former glory? I mean, in a bull run, like, anything's possible, right? What, though? I mean, they tried to pump it by doxing themselves and incorporating. It didn't seem to work, though, did it? Just looking around says, is Radiant dead? I mean, it just started, so I don't know. Why would it would be dead? I haven't checked the Discord for development updates since this morning. But I believe we had one. We didn't have one for today. They just actually did have an update to the how-tos, including how to compile the Radiant node on Ubuntu 22.04. So I would say no, not dead. There's work being done today. The DBI guy says, as I'm Tech, working on standing up my PowerEdge R620. Any recommendations on where to get hard drives and what to look for? Yeah, like you can look on Amazon. Like usually for the R620, they can even come pre-shucked, like meaning like already in the caddy bay. And you want to do like SAS drives if you're going to do non-SSD. And then basically the faster the speed, the more I/O you'll have. So really, like, I wouldn't go below 7.5K. I don't even think SAS really goes that low, but 10K is pretty standard and 15K is like fast. So that's kind of what I'd be looking for the R620. Max Barbell says, have you looked at the new KA3 for Kadena? Yeah, I looked at it. I don't think I'll spend 6,000 on it though. Also, it's one coin. I don't know. I just don't trust it. I'm still, at the end of the day, and I get it. Like everybody's looking for profit, and we're looking at ASICs for profit. I do it. I get tempted, but I'm gonna sit back and trust the process. I think that's kind of what I'm coming to the conclusion of. Like the profitability on the old Kadena miners, like the KD6 and the KD5, like those were super enticing, right? Like $60 a day, you charge $60,000. Like the people that bought those for those prices are absolutely wrecked now. And now with the KA3 coming out, they're just going to be more wrecked. And who's to say there's not another one just waiting right around the corner for me to basically grab a KA3, and then they launch a KA6 right as the next bull run comes out and basically makes me completely unprofitable. Like, I just don't like ASICs because that's what happens. That's what happens to me every time. Like, I have like Bitcoin ASICs that lose money every day, right? Useless bricks, and they're not old. They're pretty new. They're like brand new. It seems like a terrible proposition. It seems like you're gambling too much. Kane says, that's Tech new coin just dropped on mining pool stats called Vertorium. Not yet listed on any exchanges, but some people are having issues trying to get it to run in Hive OS. All right, cool. I'll have to check it out. I haven't heard of it yet. ET says, unrelated. Have you ever played the greatest game in existence, Final Fantasy Tactics? A long time ago, yeah. Talon says, that's Tech. Last question sounded like I was having a stroke. Oh, I don't know where it was. No worries. Eduardo says, that's Tech. What are your thoughts on Elrond? No thoughts on Elrond. Gabe says, that's Tech. What did you think of the Modern Warfare 2 beta? I thought it was really good, like on par with like the Modern Warfare 2019. I'll definitely be playing it when it launches. Mike says, at Tech, I heard that the devs of RTM said RTM is going to be trading in the future market within the next month. On futures market. Not sure if that will pump the price or not. I mean, potentially. Vincent's asking security stack for Node. Well, what are you really looking for to do, and like how, what platform are you on, etc. Like, basics, like making sure that you have like SSH, RSA keys in, like, that you have ports locked down, especially ports that allow, remote in, like your port 22, locking that down to public IPs that you access it from. If you are running on a network that has other devices on it, splitting that off into a VLAN. Usually I keep obviously I keep all the node infrastructure on the same VLAN as I keep like all of my miners on, because you want to be able to connect to them. Hardware-based firewall. You could use anything. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have sonic walls, but if you can pull anything else there, or if you need a cheaper option, there are cheaper options. You don't have to do that necessarily. If you're just doing like I don't know, even a big operation probably don't have to do that. I mean, your biggest concern is basically getting your wallet drained, right? Especially for the smaller coins where it's getting mined directly there. Gandalf says, what is the play on the A770? Buy 10 on launch and hope for drivers to mine and wait for drive. I don't think that it's really worth it right now to do that. I wouldn't. I'm going to buy one for testing. Vincent says, that's Tech. What's we already answered that. Try to ask only once if you can. Otherwise, it can get a little hard. Let's see. RX says, do you have... no, I have 0 Raptoriums. Never been a project I believed in. And I definitely wouldn't stake it, really. I don't know. It's just not my... It was never anything that I was really interested in. Other than, like, benchmarking it, right? I thought that was cool. Like, I like the algorithm. But the algorithm is... Yeah, I mean... yeah, I think that's it. But I've never been a CPU miner, right? Like, I have very, very low, very little interest in it. I think CPU mining is terrible for scalability, so I just, it's not something I'm big on. Let's see. Thanks, New England Crypto. You have a good day. What time is it? Yeah, we better call it. Let's see. We'll grab a couple more questions. Thomas says, "Ask Simon Tech, what would you mine if you only had one RTX 3090? Probably Caspa." Real Ergo says, "Ask Simon Tech, Etica, an open source medical research blockchain, will be listed on TextBit next week. How can you keep community miners engaged if project use case takes longer to unfold?" An open source medical. How can you keep miners engaged if project use case takes longer to unfold? You mean, how do you keep miners to... I don't really understand the question. It feels like you're asking a rhetorical question. Yeah, Vincent, I think SSH keys are the most important for nodes, by the way. Gandalf says, "Are you going to sell any mining motherboards?" Yep, I'm going to. I'm going to try to go out this weekend. It's like me and the kids. Maybe my wife can help today a little bit, but all the power supplies... Let's see, all the power supplies, probably not the frames, but power supplies, motherboards that came out from all the Octo miners, like, going to sell all those. Probably like no warranty, that type of thing, and then they'll have like a CPU... 8 gigs of RAM a piece, essentially. Oh, I'm going to be selling some of the Ryzen CPUs as well, Chadwick. Because I got to save up to buy stuff for testing. So, I know I got an ASRock B550 Tai Chi motherboard here with a 5950X in it. I got the 5800X3D. I got a 5800X. That one I'm using. And I might take the 5950X and put it in that system. And just sell the 5800X. I have a 5600X that I'll sell. 3900X. I don't know. I got to get out there and start getting it figured out. Let's see. With hash rates dropping, does dual mining become more appealing to hodl multiple coins? It depends on if you have the cooling to take care of it, but if you have the cooling to take care of it, you're theoretically still paying more in power to dual mine. I don't really know. Plus, like, what I've tested with, like, Caspa dual mining is, like, I feel like it's just better to, like, mine one coin. I can see, he says, Asymptotic Bitmain had S19 Pros listed for $1,900. Do you think those prices are getting closer to the bottom on some of these ASICs? I didn't see them for $1,900. I mean, I guess that makes sense. That, man, something else is, like, I don't know. You're still looking at, what? Like, we're seeing prices drop with low $2 a day. plus the XP hybrids, the XPs. Bitmain selling that low probably means they have something better. I don't know. Something doesn't feel right. You can dual cast with Ergo too, Daniel. I just don't think that it's worth it. Firewalla Gold, a good piece of hardware. Keep seeing ads. I don't know. That's not one I've heard of. Like Sonic Walls, I think for like home users, Ubiquity. I think Ubiquity has a... Do they? But Unify OS, right? Or does Unify OS have... Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, their routers have it too. I don't know, though. I mean... Yeah, I think their router's cheaper for the VP or for the firewall. You have a great day too, Black Cat. Dave says, that's something like, how do these crypto loans manage increasing price? If crypto goes up and you owe more than loan, no, I mean, if crypto goes up, you still owe the same amount. Well, you owe less of the crypto. Like the reason people are doing it, especially in like Argentina, is because they don't want to give up their US dollar, because the US dollar in comparison to the price of their peso is so much more. So the reason you take out a loan is on the value of something going up compared to what you are borrowing, which you are hoping the value goes down on, right? So like if you were to essentially borrow against your house, you would hope that the value of your house goes up in comparison to the value of the cash you borrowed against it. Like that's the strategy. So when you are like, and this is how shorts work too, right? So like if you're like shorting something, you would put up something for collateral that you expect to go up in value compared to what you are borrowing, which is the asset that you're shorting. Does that make sense? Like, so when like somebody from Argentina is like, okay, I have a whole bunch of DAI, but I need to go buy some food or groceries or whatever, but I don't want to get rid of my DAI because that is a US dollar stable coin. And I think that the peso is going to go down in value compared to the US dollar. I'll just borrow some peso against my US dollar. And then if the value of the dollar goes up, then he owes less coming back in. Hope that makes sense. That's kind of how that works, right? So, what is it? If you're going to short Bitcoin, you would borrow Bitcoin against the US dollar. Vincent, you say that it's hard to lock down ports on a node. Need a lot to be open for incoming and outgoing. Reverse shell. Well, you only have to open theoretically one port, and that you can lock that down to incoming only or whatever. Or income, I guess, can lock everything else down. If you lock port 22 down, or if you're real hardcore, then you're changing your SSH port to something other than 22 as well. But I wouldn't say that it's any more dangerous than running a website. I think if you have RPC is the biggest vulnerability, usually. And that really comes in once you're playing with stratums. Josh, we already talked about the A770s. I'm definitely looking forward to it. If EIP 30 or 37 passes, what do you think the implementation time might be? I don't know. It'll probably be the next epoch, right? So probably another 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean the A770 is looking really good in my opinion, Josh. On paper, I think the A750 is better because the A750 is 512 gigabytes per second for like under $300, which is better than the 3070 on paper for mining. Vincent, I don't think I have deep knowledge on networks, to be honest. I think I'm pretty much a noob. Like, I was never a networking engineer. Like, I worked like in an environment where I know guys that are really, really good. So I don't think I have the confidence to do that. It's like the same when you I can poke around in coding, but I don't think my coding's anywhere near like the type of guys I know, right? But thanks for the compliment. Thanks everybody for watching today. Hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bell down below. We did a whole 99 cents on today's stream, so we'll be moving over, that means, to Twitch. What I would ask you guys to do to help me out is, if you don't have HBO Max already, use my link that's pinned to start up an HBO Max subscription. If I get 50 signups, I get paid, and that's kind of where we're at as far as trying to monetize the channel these days. We've sunk to the HBO Max pimpin'. Hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bell down below. Let's see. 11:19. I think we will be live on Twitch soon. I don't know what I'm doing on Twitch. I might just play World of Warcraft Classic. Wrath of the Lich King. I need to do some Ironfish noting. Thanks for the $3 super chat sticker, Ted Park. Yeah, I need to do some. I think I need to do some noting. So we might do some noting while we're over there. Technically, I guess I need to get this other video out too for the voting as well. Thanks for the $10 super chat sticker, ET. Yes, script R16 is probably going to be better for CPUs, Kane. By the way. Dang. I had too many videos to do. Yeah, I got to get this other video out first before we stream. Because I don't think voting's going to last for much longer. Holy moly, €5 from Real Regos. Have a great day. Sorry for the complicated question. No worries, I just didn't understand. That's what I'd say when I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. Thanks for the $20 super sticker, Jason. Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, so I'm going to make the video on how to vote on GetBlock, and then I'm going to go sit in the sauna here for a second too. And then stream. My next stream on Twitch has to be 2 hours long minimum. Which is like, I don't think I have enough time to do it before tonight. So I don't think our next stream will be till tonight at like 10 o'clock on Twitch. If I have time, I'll go stream over on Twitch here in just a second. But I think the most beneficial thing for the community is how to vote for GetBlock. So I'm going to get that done first. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.